Thanks for joining us at Shannons Club TV, the show for all motoring enthusiasts to share the rich road and race histories of cars in Australia. In each episode we showcase a different feature car with new insights and take a road trip with a proud enthusiast.
We'll also get the latest market updates from the Shannons auction team, but right now let's take a look at the car that opened up a whole new market for Holden, the LC Torana GTR.
The Australian car industry was at its best when transforming ordinary cars into something extraordinary. They didn't come more ordinary than the first two Vauxhall Viva generations, and they didn't come more extraordinary than Holden's 1969 LC Torana GTR based on the second generation Viva. The original British HA Viva was trumpeted as the first baby Holden. It was an embarrassment. The only good news was the Vauxhall badge, which kept the fallout at a distance. After the second generation Viva was rebadged as the Holden HB Torana, it could only raise expectations that couldn't be met. Stories of Viva drivers having to reverse up steep hills to counter its lack of punch were not uncommon. Faced with more of the same with the third generation HC Viva, Holden went it alone with an entirely new approach to meet Australian needs, young and old. A Prince Skyline GT was presented inside Holden as an example of how to stretch a four-cylinder model to accommodate a long inline six. Holden's young designers convinced management that a similar stretch and wheelbase ahead of the front doors would allow Holden's family car engines to fit easily into the HB Torana. A powerful but small six-cylinder model would then give Holden an edge over the growing number of four-cylinder rivals. No one could ever have anticipated that Australia's biggest and most conservative automotive operation would ever cut and shut a disposable British economy car and turn it into a muscle car for a wide range of Australians. Mark, it takes much more than fitting a big engine into a small car for a model to be as successful in motorsport as this new Torana series. What was the magic ingredient?
Well, there was more than one magic ingredient. You think about it, they managed to preserve the handling balance of the four-cylinder cars, yet give it a much tougher drivetrain. Also, you'd expect when you change a body like that, they can be quite sloppy, but Holden gave them the rigidity and the strength of the full-size Holdens, yet they managed to keep the car fairly light. And then when you add to that things like innovations like it was the first six-cylinder Holden to have rack and pinion steering, it was the first to have a fully located coil spring rear end. You add things like disc brakes, wider wheels and tyres. I mean, this car was destined to change the face of Australian motorsport, not only in racing, but also rallying.
Well, you're right, Mark. Once the decision was made to stretch the HB Viva, Holden engineers and designers ensured that every aspect of the British economy box was brought up to full-size Holden standards. A visiting US designer from Pontiac briefed young Australian designers on the next Pontiac GTO look. The HB Viva already had the curves and proportions of the latest US models. Applying a scaled-down version of the next GTO's flowing new lines to the HB Viva centre section created a stunner. In addition to the everyday versions, an upgraded engine was combined with the special detailing and equipment of the bigger Monaro GTS to create the sporty LC Torana GTR. As the LC Torana 6 range won the 1969 Wheels Car of the Year, the GTR proved to be a fast but much cheaper rival to the Capri V6. In looks, the entire LC Torana range was a generation ahead of most Japanese and European rivals. Mark, although the first LC Torana GTR series rode too harshly for some road conditions, it seemed to hit the ground running in competition.
It sure did, and General Motors Holden didn't muck about in thrusting it into battle either.
Coming up on the show, join us as we hit the road in a beautifully preserved LC GTR Torana and get the latest market updates with Hammer Time.
The LC Torana GTR has tended to live in the shadow of its hotter and faster XU1 derivative, yet the GTR was a very successful competition car in its own right that helped launch not only the giant-killing XU1, but also the careers of touring car greats Peter Brock and Dick Johnson. The new GTR was thrust into motorsport duties soon after its launch in October 1969 and immediately proved how effective a powerful engine from a large family sedan shoehorned into a much smaller car could be. The GTR had a compact wheelbase, narrow track and lightweight, yet was powered by a higher performance version of the Kingswood's 2.6 litre inline six, resulting in nimble handling, fast acceleration and 170 km/h plus top speeds. It was the ideal basis for a new breed of Aussie competition car. Holden's new Pocket Rocket got its rallying career off to a flying start when Holden dealer team prepared GTRs won the gruelling 1970 BP Rally and the Southern Cross International, while future Ford hero Dick Johnson was enjoying great success on Queensland racetracks in his home-built GTR touring car. Joe, you would have ticked all the boxes as a potential GTR buyer in those days. You know, you were young, you were cashed up, and you were seriously hooked on sporty cars. The GTR must have struck like a bolt of lightning when it was released. Can you describe the impact it had on young Aussie car buyers at the time?
Well, I also had the flares and the sideburns too. It was all about looking a bit like Peter Brock, and it was a whole culture thing. Back in those days, in '69, you had a choice: Cortina GT, Datsun 1600, maybe Cooper S. It was getting a little bit long in the tooth. And if you didn't go for those three, you hotted up an EH, preferably a Premier, wheels, twin carburettors, nice exhaust, whatever. And then all of a sudden, Holden put that package in a small Torana body.
Yeah.
No way would you drive your dad's Kingswood or your mum's four-cylinder Viva or Torana, and here was this car made for us.
Saved you a lot of work.
Saved us a lot of work, but it looked the goods from the moment it was in the showroom. Just sensational.
The most famous and successful LC Torana GTR was undoubtedly the highly modified example built by the Holden dealer team for Peter Brock to drive in rallycross, a unique form of motorsport that mixed bitumen racetracks with man-made infield rally stages that really boomed in the early 1970s. What started out as a stock standard LC GTR was stripped to the bone and heavily reinforced to cope with endless high-speed jumps and hard landings. The engine was also pulled further back and its radiators were moved to the boot to get more weight over the rear wheels. This purpose-built rallycross machine was never short of power thanks to a Roots-type supercharger, which resulted in power outputs beyond 300 brake horsepower and an insatiable appetite for rear tyres as it tried to get all of that supercharged grunt to the ground. With its roof-mounted aerofoil and large side-mounted air scoops, this HDT GTR was a wild-looking machine, which soon earned the nickname The Beast. It dominated rallycross for several years, which, thanks to national TV coverage, made its talented young driver, Peter Brock, a household name and set him on a path to superstardom. Hope you're enjoying Shannons Club TV. Why not join the Shannons Club and share your passion for unique, rare and classic cars and motorbikes with other enthusiasts across the country. Keep up to date with the latest news, events and exclusive offers from Shannons.
My name is Ferdie Dober. This here is a Torana GTR. When we bought the car, it was in very good original condition, relatively low miles. It had a few minor dents in it, so basically we had that repaired and repainted. The rest of the car is pretty well original. The engine is a 2600S, or in the old language 161 cubic inches. It's a factory modification. They have a minor camshaft in them, sports air cleaner, a twin exhaust system. They produce a bit more power. They're rated at 126 horsepower. I suppose when you're young and you wanted to be seen, you went for some of the bright colours, and this is one of the brightest colours they had in those days. But as I say, it represents that era perfectly. The first time I saw a GTR Torana, you know, it was such a startling car, and it impressed me to the point where I made up my mind then that I wanted to get one. We own a number of Toranas. We have a number of XU1s. Got a Latham hatchback Torana, so there's quite a few that we own. In those days, obviously motorsport played a large part in it. From our point of view, it enabled us to pretend we're Peter Brock and just cruise the streets and just have fun. The car will stay in the family. There's no intentions to sort of move the car on. I mean, it's become one of the family, almost like the pet cat or the pet dog, I suppose.
Well, Shannon's National Auctions Manager, Chris Borabon, joins us. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Hi, Mike.
Hi, Chris. Chris, the LC GTR Torana, everyone had to convert it into an XU1 at one point, but that car was a little bit special. It had a 2600S engine and later, of course, the 2850S when the HQ came out. It had an identity of its own. Are we seeing that identity meaning more these days than the XU1 connection? What's happening?
I think we are today, yeah. Definitely, the GTR was different to the XU1, and I think it's come into its own really over the last 10 years. We've seen the value probably double in the last 10 years of these cars, and there's no longer the mock-ups done with the GTRs. I think people are wanting them back to the original colour, trim, specs, and also the original engines back in them, whether it was a 2600S or whether the later 2850s in them. So we're seeing that in the market.
It would have to represent a pretty practical classic, though, for an owner today, you know, with the Holden drivetrain plus the parts backup that's emerging now. It'd be, I imagine, a fairly good thing to own as a classic car.
It's a great little car. It's, you know, room for four. It's quite a sporty little car. It looks the part. A great stripe kit on the side. The badging. It really is a nice little car. And those 70s colours also that they had were fantastic.
So, Chris, I guess what's coming out of this is that the car, with its ID and its plates and everything, now have to match up. So the colours have to be right, the trim has to be right.
Yeah.
Is there any combination that's really standing out?
Look, I think it's a personal taste, that one. You know, we've seen some bright oranges and some of the mauves are quite popular. So, yeah, I think it's really a personal taste, as we've seen with many other cars over the years. But yeah, it's just great to see them in original trim again.
Absolutely.
Yeah, good stuff. Thanks for joining us, Chris.
Thanks, guys.
And keep in mind, you can keep up to date with all the latest Shannon's auction results on the Shannons Club website.
For a lasting memory of the LC GTR Torana in action, or indeed any of the other cars featured on the show, you'll find them all available in AutoPic's incredible archive of over 760,000 motorsport images.
It's quite amazing, Joe, looking back at the LC Torana GTR. That car really started something, didn't it?
Well, it certainly did. I mean, Chrysler just knew they were in big trouble
Yeah.
with their big boat of a hardtop, so they had to create the Charger instantly from nothing. It also led to the XU1, of course, V8 Toranas, and I think you could safely say that it influenced the family cars. You know, the Commodore, I don't think would have been the choice if there wasn't a Torana first. It had a major influence.
Yeah, certainly an icon in Australian motoring. Well, thanks for joining us for this nostalgic look at the LC Torana GTR. We look forward to your company next time on Shannons Club TV.